Representative Mike Flood. Congressman, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it on this holiday.
Well, thank you very much for having us. It's 1 degree below zero in Nebraska right now.
Well, then you win the "it is too cold outside" argument for the afternoon. It's pretty cold up here where I'm sitting as well, Congressman. So I want to ask you about this debanking issue. Do you think that Congress should be taking some kind of action on alleged debanking practices? We know that the president has said that it wasn't just himself. Eric Trump has come on Fox Business and said that he was debanked. Melania Trump has said that she was debanked. Where do you see this?
Well, this happened a lot during the Biden administration. And I think at that time, there were Democratic operatives and politicians and elected officials that were actively engaged in pressuring banks, like don't bank a gun manufacturer. And so we dealt with this on the Financial Services Committee. You should have the access to the banking system if you're in a legal business. And your party affiliation, your religious beliefs, none of that should ever enter into the conversation. As long as you're not a nefarious actor, you're following the laws of the United States, you're running a legitimate business, you should have access to American banks. It's just that simple.
Okay, so there's no hearings planned on this right now.
Not right now. At the rate President Trump's going, he gives us a new idea to kind of think about every 20 minutes. So we are very busy working on affordable housing right now. We are talking about consumer debt. We are focused on our agenda with digital assets and making community banks great again. So that's pretty much the agenda as we start 2026.
Well, so they're now looking at launching Trump cards to underserved Americans. This is after the president called on the banks to cap credit card interest rates at 10%. So first, do you support a cap on credit card interest rates for 1 year at 10%? Number two, what do you make of the idea of Trump cards being available?
Well, first of all, I do not think that a 10% cap will have the desired effect. I think the president is right to say we have a consumer debt issue in the United States. That's why we have community banks. And, as a private attorney, I often had clients that would come in, they're struggling under $40,000 of credit card debt. There's a way to work that out with the card issuers and, more importantly, get these folks to a community bank and see if you can't find some kind of an installment loan to make it work at a much lower interest rate. That's why we have community banks. And if we pass our Make Community Banking Great Again agenda that our chairman, French Hill, has laid out, there's legislation specifically in there that encourages banks to get on top of this and help these struggling consumers that are drowning under all of this debt.
Well, we expect the president also, when it comes to housing, when he's in Davos, to unveil his housing agenda, his plan. We've already gotten a couple of nuggets from Kevin Hassett on that one. Let's stay with housing, though. Your bill, you just mentioned it, the Housing for the 21st Century Act. It recently did advance from the committee. So what's going on with this? Is it going to come to the floor for a full House vote? Do you perceive this going to the Senate? Think it gets to the president's desk?
Well, the good news is the Senate is moving on housing legislation. The House now has bipartisan housing legislation, and the president has been engaged in this issue since really last September when he started talking about potentially emergency executive orders. The bill that the House is working on really takes advantage of this underlying force in the Democratic Party right now. You've got this book written by Ezra Klein talking about abundance, and it really sheds light on this change of thinking in the Democratic Party about getting rid of all of the hurdles that exist with using federal dollars. Hurdles like Build America, Buy America. I love it, but it costs 20 to 30% more to build a house under it. Section 3 requirements, you can only hire certain people to work on a project. Even the environmental reviews on buildings that have been in existence for 100 years, it makes no sense to do another environmental review on whether that structure should be there. And so these are all ideas that are outlined in the 21st century housing bill. I'm confident that when the Senate and the House have the opportunity to go through this, the president will sign this, and we will have the most significant housing policy change since 2015.
Affordability is the story for 2026. It is a midterm year, and certainly you and your colleagues are aware of that, and that messaging is crucial, and also to make sure that things get done so that Americans do have maybe a break when it comes to higher prices. The president is planning to announce for Americans to dip into their 401ks to pay for down payments on homes. Kevin Hassett was on Fox Business on Friday. He actually let that news break that was one of the ideas that is being floated out there. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. You could borrow from your 401k, Kevin Hassett told us, and then in the equity of the home, that reverts back into the 401k, so you still have that retirement income.
I think it's an excellent idea. I mean, nothing's more important than owning your own home. When you own your own home, you're more than just part of the community, you're in the fabric of it. And right now, the average age for first time homeowners in the United States is 40. That is unacceptable.
Mhm.
A lot of these folks have been putting money in their 401k since they got out of college or they started their first job at 20 years old. They have those resources, and this is a great investment. It will also help us address our supply issues because there will be more demand with people that can actually get the down payment paid and get into that house.
Yeah. Well, so again, with your role in financial services, great question for you. I do want to move on to that big story that we've been following today. The administration contends it is in America's national interest and national security to acquire Greenland. Do you agree with that?
I think that there needs to be an agreement for the United States and Greenland to move forward together. Listen, the Danish ambassador was in my office 2 weeks ago, and he said, "We've never said no to the United States working on our soil, having bases on our soil." I think that in this case, we need to take advantage of our fantastic Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. He's the one person in the administration that is uniquely talented to find us a win-win, something that improves Arctic security, makes sure that we're focused on the real threats from Russia and China, helps NATO, but most importantly, protects our eastern seaboard. And that's what President Trump wants.
Well,
This is a deterrent issue.
the Wall Street Journal editorial board has a great piece out today called "The Greenland War of 2026," and it says for more than 75 years, the fondest dream of the Russians has been to divide Western Europe from the United States. He's talking about NATO, but at the same time, they are, excuse me, but just really, really quick, a price tag, an analyst came out and said $700 billion if we wanted to buy Greenland. There have been reports in Politico and other papers that the president, really this is all strategy. He's not going to go on, with military forces blazing into Greenland. He wants to buy it. It's a transaction. Your thoughts on that?
Well, he is a real estate developer by trade, and so there's some of this that touches that. But we have no business being in Greenland to fight the people of Greenland. I do not support using military resources. I understand that anytime the president attempts to achieve one of his goals, his path is often unconventional. We've come to see that, and quite frankly, it has worked out very well for him over his tenure. But in this case, we've got a NATO ally that we respect. We've had 225 years of great relations. The people of Nebraska are all behind the president wanting a strategic alliance with Greenland, whatever form that may be. Maybe it's a 100-year lease. I don't know. But whatever we do has to be met with the approval of the people of Greenland.
All right. Well, Congressman Flood, it's always a great pleasure to speak with you.